So everyone should have hopefully gotten an email prior to this. I know you got the link, but also I have an outline of what I will be reviewing in the time we have together. So my goal is to talk for about 30, 40 minutes and then open it up at the end for questions. But again, feel free to kind of jump in with any questions as we go along. You should also know that I have a kid myself, so I understand everyone's experience right now. Some of us are working from home. Some of us are working full-time as parents at home without kids leaving the house and trying to manage everything that comes with that. So I will try to sprinkle in some of my own experience too, but know that everything I'm talking about is research-based information. It is not my opinion. It is based on cognitive behavioral therapy principles or dialectical behavioral therapy principles, and that is why I'm sharing it with you. Okay, so these are the goals of today. I want to first make sure that by the end of this talk, you come away with these three things. A better understanding of the emotional experiences your child may be going through right now to kind of understand some of their behavior. Also, to see how uncertainty is playing a role in your life and the life of your children. There's a lot of uncertainty happening around us, and that has a big impact. So we're going to talk about that. And then, of course, this, in my opinion, wouldn't be worth it if you didn't have some practical ways to kind of implement some of these things in your own homes. So we're going to get to that at the end for sure. Okay, let's keep it moving. So the first point is that this summer is not the same as any summer your child has ever experienced. You're probably thinking like, we know this, like this is very obvious, and if this is why I came here for an hour, not helpful. It is helpful because we have to keep this in mind, right? And so you have never parented a kid during a summer like this. Your kids have never had a summer like this. It's all new. And it's really important that we understand what that means in every aspect and to accept that what's going to happen has never happened before. So some of our kids aren't going to camp for the first time maybe in their life, right? Like maybe they started going to camp when they were little itty bitties and they're not going to see those friends anymore this summer. They're not going to have that experience. You might have been looking forward to a vacation and that's not happening. You may have, been able to take time off work and now you can't because you have to work more and it's just, you can't go to the pool or you can't do those things that summer is all about. And it's important that we don't try to just fix that we don't just try to say, but this summer is going to be great too. That we are going to figure it out. Like it's going to be the best because we want it to be good. And hopefully we're going to find some ways for it to be a different type of summer, but we want to give our kids the space to almost like mourn the loss of their summer experience. And so it can be uncomfortable as a parent to see your child sad and angry, and this is not fair. And it might be easy to kind of see, maybe in your mind, it's not that big of a deal. Like, look at all the stuff you have, right? It's just one summer of camp. Like, you're going to go back next year. Like, it's going to be okay. But to give them that space to really be angry or sad and express it to you. And know that this might not just happen at the beginning of the summer. So it might happen throughout the summer, right? Where they remember, like this is what we were supposed to be doing then. Or I'm so tired of being with you guys. Like I want to be with my friends. Or kind of having a memory of something pop up that seems random. And so just allowing that space is really important. It's funny because no one's screens are on. So I'm just like talking to names. Hopefully you're listening to me and it's making sense. See, that worked. Thanks so much. So we have that. And then I want you to understand too that every child's going to experience this differently. So I'm not sure how many of you have multiple kids, have one kid. I actually don't even know the ages of your kids, right? And I'm going to do my best to give information particular for like different age groups. But as parents, I'm sure you know if you have more than one, they're different. They're not the same. So one kid might be acting like everything's fine, hunky-dory, and then like out of the blue, a little thing happens and it's like, right, like they just lose it. Or maybe, you know, one of your other children gets really angry or just kind of goes into themselves, right? And so it's understanding and picking up on how each child is expressing their loss, and that all of it is okay. So a lot of times parents will come to me and say, like, is something wrong? Like, is this bad? Is this an overreaction? Do they need help? And usually the answer is they're fine. Like, no, this is the way that kids experience things. And that emotions are good and emotions are important, and we don't want to shut them down. And we don't want to say, enough already. Like, it's July. Like, get over it. Like, okay, we're still in July. Yep, that's fine. Like, let's feel it. It's also helpful if you can figure out or talk to your kid about what are they missing about this summer in particular. Now, the next point seems to contradict that point, because I think it is helpful to not try to recreate the summer that they've lost. Don't try to recreate camp or recreate that vacation or recreate like summer in a place where everyone can do what they want. But try to figure out, or you may already know, what is it about summer that is so special or that your kids look forward to, and try to integrate that into this new normal, into the experience that they have. So maybe it's a certain food that they only get in the summertime at camp. I went to sleepaway camp and we had pierogies, which does not sound like a food that kids would really look forward to, but let me tell you, pierogi night at camp, it was the best. So like if my mom made pierogies one night and was like, look, I know this isn't camp, but like pierogies, it'd be like nice, right? So to try to figure out, maybe you throw color wars in your home. Now that could go well or not well. You know your kids, right? Some kids would be like, we're in it, ah! And some kids it could like really go off the walls. But to try to bring in those things in an adapted way for this time, right? My son really loves swimming. And like, it's really hard for me because we don't have access to a safe pool right now. Like the public pools are closed. We don't have a pool. The gym where we go to take him swimming is closed. Like I can't get him into a pool, right? And so it's to just acknowledge that sadness and that difficulty, but also try to have more water balloon fights, right? Like that's not a pool, but we're wet. Or my kiddo's smaller, right? So we like make bath time like a very long amount of time. We are like swimming in the tub. So just trying to find ways that you can bring that in. Time does go by really quickly, huh, people? Okay, let's see. Oh, and then it's that whole lemonade out of lemons. So there are some kind of fun things about this situation if you look hard enough. And I'm sure everyone's experiencing it differently. Like, we're around each other all the time now. Like my son has never been with my husband and I this long for this amount of time. Like he's like, whoa, what's happening? Like this is cool. And like, how can you take advantage of that, right? Or how can you take advantage of no one coming over to your apartment? Maybe it's a little bit messier than it usually is, right? No one's gonna see it. Can you make obstacle courses all over your house, your apartment, and let the kids have fun in a way that they wouldn't have before, right? If we have older kids, maybe they get to be a little bit more independent in a way that they weren't before. Maybe they've always wanted to try some like elaborate recipe, but it's like gonna be such a mess and it's gonna take so much time. And it's like, no, we're gonna do that now, right? Or they get a little bit more freedom in the space where they're in. So it's trying to say, not just what are we losing, but what is unique about this circumstance that is positive and we might never have again, right? So with the time dragging on, we're gonna get to this later, I'm sure tensions are also high, right? Because we don't have breaks and we don't have our own space and it's happening over like on. And also when's the next time we're all going to be together in this way? So how can we take advantage of that and kind of frame it in that manner? I've gotten through like the number 1 section. So is there anything that people want me to talk more about, get into questions before I move into kind of uncertainty and anxiety kind of part of this? There are no chats. Okay, then I will keep going. So there's a lot we don't know. So now we know kind of more about the summer, but I'm not sure if your kids are asking you or are curious about like school in the fall, right? Like, is it going to be remote? Are we going to go back to our building? Am I going to see my friends again? What about that teacher that this was their last year and I was going to, like, I couldn't say goodbye? Like, what am I going to be able to do about that? And when we don't know what's to come, when there's so much change and so much that's new, that is really like a breeding ground for worry, for that unknown. And you might be picking up on that, not only in your kids, but for yourself, right? Like, it's hard to make plans. It's hard to know what next month is going to look like. It's hard to be able to kind of contain your kid, not physically, but just emotionally, right? And often we want to reassure and say, I'm sure you're going to get back to school. Like, you'll see your friends again. I don't know, right? Like, I don't know. And that is really the most effective response is, I don't know. And as soon as I know, you will know, right? Like, what I know now is this. And I don't know what's going to happen, and that's scary. And to put words on to that and to know that that's okay. But then also highlight what you do know, right? And that's kind of this mindfulness piece of trying to stay in the present. So our minds often want to take us to the future, like those worries. It's like, what's going to happen? What's this going to look like? I signed my kids up for this virtual camp. Who's ever done a virtual camp before? What the heck? What is that going to look like? I don't know, but like, hopefully it looks like something helpful or something fun. And I do know that they're going to be kids your age there. And I do know that they're going to be doing these activities that you like, because I know you and you like art. So it's an art camp. So I know that. I don't know what it's going to feel like to do it virtually, but to be able to highlight the things that you do know and to express what it feels like to also not know. And that there's a lot of firsts, and that could be scary. And so sometimes your kids might have been really independent kids who could just go off to camp or like talk to anyone or like try this new thing. And now they're feeling a little bit nervous. So it's okay if you have to like hold their hand a little bit more, right? And kind of go in that first date with them, or like ask them how they want to be supported by you in doing this new thing that they're doing. Trying to give structure to your kids is really important. So I don't know about anyone else, but time is really a weird thing now. Like, I know today is Friday because this was scheduled on Friday, but like pretty much the days are feeling the same. And in an unusual summer, really all the days seem the same, right? For kids, it's just summer. And they're coming from a remote learning environment, which also was like difficult to keep track of, into summer. And it's important that you're able to give them some structure. Now, depending on the age of your kid, that's going to look different. So like a high schooler doesn't need like an outlined daily schedule for you. Please don't do that for a high schooler. They will not like it. They'll be like, please stop. For a younger kid, you need to give them more structure into their day, right? So every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we might do Saturday, Sunday too. Maybe there's one specific bigger activity that happens each of those days, right? And it could be the same thing. And then they also know what's going to happen in the morning, what the activity is going to be, and what like nighttime is going to look like. And that's the same like every Monday. and every Tuesday kind of looks the same. And of course, something can make that different, but then they can be flexible and try to figure that out. Trying to give them some order and some predictability in a time that is a bit unpredictable. Are there questions about kind of that balance? Yes, Rati. Oh, hold on.
Yeah. Yeah. So what if the kids really don't want that structure and it's all loosey-goosey? They're on the computer when they want to be, internet when they want to be. You know, I say, okay, Tuesdays, let's do a movie. Wednesdays, let's do a dance party. But come Tuesday, come Wednesday, no, mom, we're just reading just now. We just want to watch our favorite show got released today. So how do you stick to that structure?
Yeah, thank you. So you stick with a structure with flexibility, right? And so if the kids are older, you want them to be a very active part in what this looks like, right? Like it has to be very collaborative. You can't put that onto them. But then there was also like the piece about screen time, right? Like having, being on the internet, and my shows come out. And so like, we don't need to follow the outline. We'll just talk what we want to talk about. Not all screen time is bad screen time, right? Because there's also this socialization piece. And so we want to make sure that our kids are seeing their friends as much as possible. And so if it's screen time that's happening with friends, then we want to support that for certain times. But if it's like I'm getting sucked into a Netflix loop, like an autoplay Netflix loop, or I'm getting sucked into a video game that is happening and happening and happening and happening, then those are the things that I would say, this is the time for that, right? Like you can have, but you all are parents. You have to decide what this is for your kids in your home, right? That's not my thing to do for you, right? We do know that other than socializing screen time, so like video chatting, even video games, but that they're playing with their friends that they know, not like random people online that they meet through the games, but like the way for them to connect with their friends, that's helpful screen time. But we do want to limit the other parts. So you might have like, this is screen time during the day. Like these are the hours, right? And you might do a screen time curfew at night. And I also want you to appreciate that it's summer. And so the kids also, it's summer and they want to be able to have a little bit more freedom. So whether you're a parent that has really strict kind of restrictions on that during the school year, you might loosen up on that a little bit, right? And then scheduling in time that is not screen time. So Rati, to your point, it's like, can we do family time things too? And if you don't want to do this family time thing, that's fine. But then what are the other alternatives? Like, so I recommend making like a list, like a menu list, right? Like when we're not on screens, this is like family time, here's a list of things we could do. We could play a family board game. We could watch a movie together. We could have a dance party. We could do art. We could read a play together, like a dramatic reading of a play. We could do whatever our family likes to do. If you choose not to do that, then here's some choices of like independent stuff you can do. Now, again, it's going to depend on ages, right? But if you kind of look down, we're thinking about balancing together time and alone time. And everyone, including all of you, need your alone time, right? Because how many of us, for parents, summer is a time when you get a break, like off to camp, or they're kind of more busy, or you just need it. And so to be able to balance and schedule into the day, this is time where everyone in this house is going to have time for themselves. And I think I see a little one in a screen, which is lovely. And I'm so happy to see a little one in a screen, because even little ones, I see you, little one, even little ones can have their own independent playtime, right? But you'd have to set that up for them. So maybe it's getting together like a doll house with dolls in it that they can play with, and you know they can do that. Or having some puzzles out, or a train set already put together that they can kind of play with. And maybe it's just 20 minutes. And for you, mom, dad, grandparent, whoever, you have your own thing that you're doing for yourself in that time, because you all need to be able to give yourself that like break so that you can give back to your kids. And I know you think like, oh yeah, I know what to do in my free time. Like if I had 20 minutes to myself, can you all think of things you would do? Just with no kids around, just 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, it would be amazing. But then when it happens, you might be like, I don't know what to do. I could do everything. And you end up like picking up around the apartment or like, you don't know. So I would actually take time for yourself and write down 5 things that you could do and make a list of things that the kids could do and kind of have those separate. I feel like I kind of went off track a little bit. But questions about that? Did that make sense? Okay. Daily practice. Okay, so let's talk about some real life things you guys can do. So everyone has the worksheet, the outline.
Yeah.
Sign if you don't. There's a way for you, I had to kind of think of ways to personalize your summer for your kid. And you can do that for each of your children. But to ask yourself these questions, and if you don't have the outline, that's fine. I can show you them. I don't have my whiteboard. So we talked about earlier of thinking about what your child loves about summer, like what is their thing. And so for each child that you have, you can write down one thing that your child loves about summer. And I want you to do this actually like now, because the fact that you took this time to help prepare yourselves and your kids for summer is amazing. And I want you to spend this time in a way that when you leave, you have something to build on. So I'm going to be quiet, and I want you to think about one thing each of your kids really looks forward to about summer. Okay. And I'm looking at the chats. I see the question about motivation, so I promise I'll talk about that too. So can I have people, if they're comfortable, like share some answers? Like what's one thing that like your kid loves about summer?
My daughter loves to go to the pool with her friends.
With her friends, right?
She's only 6, so those are play date moments.
Yeah, the pool. Okay, thank you. What else? Yeah,
I can say go to the beach and hang out with camp friends.
Okay. Beach, pool, camp friends. I also see tubing and cousins and unstructured time, dancing. Yeah. Okay, this is awesome. Okay. So some of these are going to be easier to incorporate than others. So now the question is, I want you to brainstorm ways to incorporate this into this summer, right? So if there's certain kids that certain friends that your child likes to go to the pool with, but they can't go to the pool, right? Maybe you find a way to do a Zoom play date with them so that they can all see each other, and you blow up you're in the tub, or you blow up like a baby pool in the back that they can like splash around in, right? Maybe I don't know, tubing could happen depending on where you are, if the tubing's open. Whoever wrote tubing, I don't know if that's possible.
I have an off-topic question, on topic but off topic, that maybe other parents can answer. Like, I started taking my daughter to the park. She has a very small school, so it's not like she was able to have a lot of Zoom with friends because there were only 5 kids in the class. So, and she's very social. I started taking her to the park the last couple of days, and it's pretty scary. I don't know if it's me, but I mean, everyone is just having their kids play with other kids like it's nothing. And I can't have her do that. So it's kind of weird because she sees that. And is it just me? But I don't know. Like, I don't think that should be happening. But it's almost like the parents go and the kids just go play with each other.
The same thing is happening with our kids.
Yeah,
Exact same thing. They're dying for socialization. So they just, when we go into the park situation or wherever, we say, don't get near people. But the first thing they do is get right up to them. And
yeah. So I keep her next to me. I feel really bad. But it's scary.
Yeah. So something that can help with that is to really try to organize yourself with other parents, right? So thinking about this idea, and again, not an infectious disease expert. So but just in terms of how to socialize your kids during this time, that it's like expanding the bubble, right? So if you have close friends that also have kids that age, or your kids' friends' parents, that you talk and kind of come to an agreement about what these play dates will look like, right? So for my son, he knows that he has to wear a mask. He's almost 3, right? And we got a mask just for him. So how do you get a little kid to wear a mask? He picks out the fabric that he wants. It's made just for him. We practice wearing it at home. He knows that the rule is that in order to be with other kids, you have to have a mask on, and that kid has to have a mask on too. That's just our family rule, right? But it doesn't have to be yours. But kids really need structure. They'll go with those rules if you say it. And if you work with other parents to find a time of day that it's less crowded, or a place that is less crowded, and it's almost like you're making your own perimeter. And then you think about games that are better, right? So maybe it's kicking a ball around. Maybe it's bike riding next to each other. That's like less interactive, like physically, right? Maybe it's scooting in the park. Maybe, it is swimming. They're actually, that's fine, but they're like swimming away from each other, touching the ladders going out of a pool, like wiping those down. But it's really talking directly with your kids about why you're doing these things. We can't run up to other kids because we want to stay healthy, right? We want to make sure everyone's healthy. The rule for our family is that we have to have masks on when we're playing with others. We can't hug. Let's practice how we would say a really excited hello rather than hugging or giving a high five, right? So we can like jump up and down. We can do a little cheer. Just kind of practicing those things with your kids and thinking about where in your neighborhood is more isolated and what time of day.
The great part is that my daughter knows. I mean, she'll even ask adults on the street, where's your mask? Why is your mask under your nose? Like, she's so aware to the point that she could get anxious if she doesn't see you around her like that. But the tough part is that not all the parents are. It's tough, and her best buddies, their parent doesn't really adhere to that. Mm-hmm. And it's sad for her.
Yeah. And to label that for her and to say, like, it is sad that you can't see your best friend right now. And this is how we can see them, but we're trying to keep everyone healthy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Look, I'm looking at more questions. I think maybe we should just talk about being a parent in the summer.
I was just going to say something quickly too. There was an end of school parade here, like a lot of places have done. And my son is 6, so he obviously hadn't seen anyone. So the other mom and I coordinated to like meet in the parking lot after. And so they kind of ran around each other, not with, and they're both, kind of like Carlene, I guess what you were saying, your daughter, like they know about the mask. They're totally, my son has a superhero one. He's obsessed. He'll wear it all day if I needed him to. But I think that was, that's a helpful part to try to have that conversation, I guess, with the other parents if they're open to it. But, we just kind of let them, they literally just like ran in circles and talked about, everything they own, because that's what 6-year-olds do. And like, guess what toy I had and guess what I watched and whatever. But it was, it was helpful, I think, because he still got to see him and they still got to kind of interact. It had been 3 months since he had seen him, but it was still at least outside and in a healthy way and kind of separate. So maybe if you can talk to that one friend, if you're willing, or if you think they'd be open to it, just doing you guys, at a certain time, like Dr. Bellevue was saying that it would just be you guys. They can stay separate in the park, kind of running around, that kind of thing, so they can still interact. I don't know. I saw a big difference for my son because he's been losing it and really needed some other interaction. So that was very helpful for us.
And Rachel, I appreciate that point, because as this continues, it is going to be a balance between prioritizing, and of course you're prioritizing your child's physical health, and I'm like not suggesting otherwise, and the emotional impact of kids at any, no matter whether your child is 3, 6, 12, 15, 17, of not engaging with peers is also really significant for this amount of time, right? The way that your children learn socially cannot be done just with adults, right? Think about how siblings can like teach each other and check each other, not a very clinical term, right? But they can check each other differently than you do, and how they learn from friends and how they feel connected in those ways. And so as this continues, it's how do you balance wanting to make sure your children have that growth and development and don't feel anxious about when things open up again, right? So I think, Carlene, you were saying your daughter is like, they're not wearing a mask, like you have to put a mask on, or maybe there's some fear in that, right? And we also want them to gradually get comfortable being outside, like as things open up, but find ways to give that person-to-person contact, because that's so important. And so it could be when you're out for a walk and you see another family that you've never known, you don't know who they are, but they're all wearing masks, or they seem like they're kind of like engaging in a way that is similar to how you want to. Maybe you introduce yourselves, right? Like, this is what this time is different than all other times, right? I probably wouldn't do that otherwise.
I don't think I thought about the summer. I mean, I'm realizing this is gonna go on. I think just hearing you guys, like, yeah, it's reality. And she's an only child, and she's I've made home comfortable because I was so afraid of her just going through this as so I've bought a robot. I mean, you can see behind it, to the point that she doesn't even want to go outside sometimes, which is not good either.
Right.
And yeah, this is scary.
Yeah, it is. And like part of the reason why I wanted to have this space for parents was to say exactly that. And I really appreciate you being like vulnerable and saying that, right? Like it all hits us differently too. Like this is, now we're in summer and we don't know how long this will be. And we do want there to be a balance between being inside and outside. So again, I know not everyone got the outline, but a big theme of this is how do you balance things that are opposites? How do you balance the inside time and the outside time? How do you balance us all being together and also having your own time? Betsy, I know you asked a question about like anxiety and how this looks different kind of with younger kids and older kids. And what kind of I was speaking about earlier of this uncertainty time, it does breed kind of those worries. And so it's not always a difference between ages of how anxiety shows itself. It can also just be individually. So for younger kids though, emotions are very easily felt physically, but that's true for older kids too, who might not have the words to put on emotions. So if you're noticing that your child is having headaches a lot more and doesn't have allergies, because it can also be allergies, but having headaches more or stomach aches more, or like they're physically feeling it, that could be an anxiety reaction. If they're lashing out or more angry, for little kids, that's could be anxiety, right? Which people don't often think about. It's not always oppositional. It can be fear. For older kids, again, like that physical sensation, those stomach aches, a loss of appetite, not being able to sleep, those are all signs that there could be increased stress or anxiety happening. And then also something called like regression, right? So your kids might want to go back to things they used to do when they were younger, when they felt safe. So maybe it's a certain stuffed animal that you haven't seen them carrying around for a while and now they're back. Or maybe you find them in your room or in your bed again and you're like, what? This is not where you belong. But it makes sense because things are there's such upheaval. And to like understand that as like an emotional reaction to what's happening around them. And so what do you do? My big point here is always going to be label that emotion for them and let them feel it and talk about it and get them back to where they were, right? Like, it's okay to go outside. I know for months and months we've been saying we have to stay inside, and we're going to gradually go outside again. And you might do like 20 minutes every day. For me, just where I live, the morning is less crowded than the afternoon. So when I go out with my son, that's when I try to go out because it's more relaxing for me. Because you have to also understand your own stress and your own tension. So I was taking him out in the afternoons for like a fun scooter ride, and it was stressing me out. People were everywhere. I was trying to like.
Here. Oh my goodness, same here.
Yeah. And I was getting tense. I was losing my like, not my temper, but like I was like, we're going, gotta go. And I was setting both of us up for it not be successful. And I was actually proving the point that outside is scary. It's stressful. I love the teddy bear. Hey, buddy. And so what can be helpful as a parent is to think about yourself and what makes your anxiety go up, what makes your stress level go up, to prepare for that so that you're bringing your child into a situation where you're at your best to like manage them and whatever happens. Right? So if your kid's having a tantrum or an older kid is like, no, I don't want to leave now, or I don't want to, like, you can't get them to do what you want, there's more time and it's not like that big of a deal, right? It's like, okay, well then we can do it now. We can do it this way.
I was just wanting to share with that too. So I have diagnosed anxiety and I'm also a social worker. So that's a whole extra fun layer. And I can tell that my son has some of that, but we had the same kind of thing. At the beginning of all of this, I went to get my son a donut and his dad was very upset. And he was like, we shouldn't be getting it. We don't know if they're clean in there and we shouldn't be doing this and that. And then the other day we went to go get him. I said, do you want to go get a donut? We're going to be driving by Dunkin' Donuts. And he was like, we can't. Daddy said, we can't. It's not clean. And he was totally, feeding it. And this was 2.5 months ago that he said that. And so we had to have a real conversation. Like, I understand that you're worried. There's precautions in place and all of that. So I am constantly trying to check myself because I know that my anxiety or his dad's impacts him obviously so significantly no matter what, but especially in this kind of uncertain time. And so he was able to calm down and accept his donut, but it was just like these little things that you don't even realize that they remember and pick up on that. Right. I just kind of checking myself with that, especially now starting to go out again.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And like, that's also kind of building in that time for yourself in the day where like everyone kind of has their moment and their time to like do something for themselves is so important. Sorry, I want to get back to like a question about an older kid, 12-year-old old, who doesn't seem motivated and like everything she's loved, like ballet and friends, is different and non-existent, and like everything's on Zoom, and it's like, I'm assuming, and please feel free to talk if you want to, but you also don't have to if you want it to be confidential, that you're worried that she doesn't do the things she loves anymore, and like how to kind of get her back into it, or like what does that mean?
It's with her, it's like we're finishing out school. She's like a A student, like perfectionist, first child type of personality. She doesn't want to do anything. Like, I had to force her last night to finish up assignments that are overdue because she said, Mom, everything's on the screen. In school, teachers would say, do this, do that. Nobody's telling me anything. And then she goes 3 hours a day on Zoom for ballet, weeks of no corrections. Like, nobody's giving her a correction because there's 50, 60 kids on the Zoom. They can't. you know. And then summer is going to be like this too. They say you have to keep up with ballet. She loves ballet, but it's the same thing for the summer, like 3 hours, 4 hours a day on the computer. She can't focus. We're trying, like, we're getting her a bigger screen so she can see her teacher. Like, we're trying to make the 4x6 area in our living room. Like, we're trying to do things like you're saying to like make it livable, but it's like, I don't know how else to say, like, we said, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but she said, no, I want to dance. Like, I want to, but there's just like no motivation, because her motivation was she loved to do it in the place and she loved to be with her friends.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to address that any more than like adjusting our environment and encouraging her to take a break and do other things. But I'm kind of at a loss for like any further.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so sometimes when I'm talking about these things, I am acknowledging, but they contradict sometimes, right? And so what I'm going to say now is, like, let it go, right? Like, she excelled and she loved and she was in it to win it, school and ballet and her friends, when she was in school and ballet and her friends. And this is like kind of that radical acceptance piece now. This is not school and ballet and friends anymore, right? And it's a loss. And so we can fight to try to make it seem like it's school and ballet and friends, and see, it's school and ballet and friends, but it's not. And she knows it, and you know it, and the teachers know it, but they have to keep doing it, because what else are they going to do? So they're going to like try to make it the best that they can. And so sometimes what I'm hearing, but it might not be true because I don't know your daughter at all, right? But sometimes it can be a fear behind it of like, if I don't keep up, if I don't keep doing ballet for 3 hours, if I don't see those girls or boys or whomever who are in class, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose my posture. I'm going to lose my flexibility. They're going to move on without me. And to acknowledge that fear, or to say, I kind of think we should let this go. Like, what would it be like if we did ballet for an hour? Or like, what if we kind of found a different way for you to dance? Like, or what if we didn't dance at all? And if her reaction is like, what? Or like, no, like, why? Like, just get curious. Like, what? Why? Like, what's going to happen? And like, let's try it. And sometimes as parents, it's like being there and present, and also like trying to understand the experience. And for everyone else, like some of you might also have 12-year-old daughters who really like ballet, but this could go for like any kid who was really into something, and now it's like you can't get them to do it. It's like, this isn't that anymore, and that's okay. And hopefully it will be that again. And I know you think you're gonna not be able to catch up, or you're gonna lose it, but I promise you, your fear is always worse than reality. And so sometimes as parents, you need to set those limits, and they might be upset, right? But you just might have to say, this is not good for you, and it's not good for us. Like, this is stressful. This is supposed to be summer. Like, this is fun. This is something you love. I'm not doing this anymore. Like, let's go do something. Like, what could we do with 3 hours a day, right? Like, what else? And so if that's helpful, great. If there's like, if I miss, is there like a follow-up, Lisa, or like, did that kind of get
No,
you?
it's helpful. I've had those same thoughts. So it's just a matter of like figuring out what's the best thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to lose anything by not doing it for the summer. I think everyone's losing something, you know? So in terms of her being worried when she goes back, like, okay, if your body's in shape, your body's in shape, and you're 12, it doesn't matter, you know? But it's just, I think that was very helpful. So thank you.
Very good. And I know I totally get that sentiment of like, you're 12, it doesn't matter. And also it matters a lot. So like, I hear you, 12-year-old, it really matters, and it's going to be fine. I promise. Okay. I'm reading another question. Let me disappoint you. Schedule. Sorry, guys. Parents being on different pages. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we have a question about parents maybe not being on the same page about things, or like tensions being high between parents. And kind of, oh, am I frozen still? No. Sorry, I didn't even realize. Now I realize. Okay, so I have a question about not being on the same page, parents, or maybe tensions being high in the house. And I think this is true for lots of us with parents, but also maybe it's happening with siblings too, that like people are just getting at each other. So from a parent perspective, I think we all need to try to understand each other's perspective and give people the benefit of the doubt. And know that the way you see yourself as a parent, or how you are like your best self parent, it's going to be really hard to do that in this situation. And we might be missing the mark. And same with your partner who you're parenting with, right? Like, we're all having increased stress and tension, and it's hard. Now, what I would do is I would think about what are no more than 3 issues that we have to be on the same page about as parents. Whatever those are for you, that is not my job to tell you what they are, but like no more than 3 things, right? So maybe it's cursing in the house. Like that's just something that like does not happen here. Or maybe it's about cleaning up after yourself, like having the kids clean up. Like I will not clean up the whole house, right? Or maybe it's about like kids going out, if you have older kids, right? Like with friends and when they need to be home, what activities they can engage in. That you pick 3 things that no matter what, that's your foundation. And then as other things come up in that moment for yourself to like breathe and do what you need to bring it down and ask yourself, does this matter right now? Like, does this thing that we're not agreeing on as parents, is this make or break? Is this like, can I let this go? And I think oftentimes the answer is yes, I can let this go. Or at least I can let this go for now and we can talk about it later. As a psychologist, I will tell you that it is okay for your kids to see you fight, or to have disagreements, or to not get along. It is not okay if those fights or disagreements are aggressive or demeaning, or puts each other down, or scary, right? But it is okay and also really helpful if you say, you know, Mom and I, Dad and I, we don't agree right now. We don't know. We have to talk later and figure it out. Or I'm angry right now. Like I'm frustrated and I have to go cool off, right? And we're going to talk about this later. And for your kid, you model that behavior. You model getting in disagreements and resolving them and coming to a different conclusion. So that is how I would address that, Eric. Was that helpful? Was there more, like something specific, or can you unmute yourself? No, it's okay.
Yeah, no, I think that was, thank you. I think that was good. I think often, you know, obviously it varies by household, but everyone's under a heightened level of stress right now. And so I think some of the issues that come up often with kids that then parents are left to manage, like all the parents on this call, when partners are on very different pages, or when they are really having their own struggles with each other, it only amplifies, right? Because you're not problem solving together in the way that you typically would. And maybe there's differences in work schedules, which is a logistical but very real problem. You know, someone's doing all the parenting and all that. So
I understand that personally, right? Yeah. My husband and I have very different work schedules. Our daycare is closed. Like it's a lot of juggling. And I think that's where like seeing it from the other's perspective is helpful to like remind yourself, like, because I know I can be so in, like, you don't know what I did all day. Like, this is what my day was like. And now you want me to do this. It's like, okay, hold on. Like, I don't know what your day was like either. And like, this is not going to help. And also to know that you're going to have those moments and that's okay too. Right. And so like, if your kids see that, it's okay. But then it's important to address it. Right. Of like, okay, like mama was upset. Like I hit my point. Right. Like I do a lot of emotion talk with my kid, right? So I was feeling this. I spoke in this way. I shouldn't have. I'm sorry.
Right.
And and that's fine. So it takes the pressure off, and it also shows because your kid's going to do that too, right? Like he's going to get angry, she's going to get angry or sad or anxious and do something, and then be like, oh gosh, right? I shouldn't have done that. Well, okay. So what do we do? How do we fix it?
I think that picking the battle essentially is also huge.
Yeah. There's so many battles there.
So many.
There's so many. You have so many to choose from. I know. Rati?
How do you limit the regression and what is acceptable? You know, you said crawling into your bed, just, you know, how much is okay and what do you do to react? And is it normal?
So when there is something like this going on, so we see this as like a societal trauma almost, right? Like this is a time that is unexpected. We've never had to experience before. And so it makes sense that regression would happen. Now it's also makes sense if regression doesn't happen, right? But if it does, to put it in that context. The thing is, the longer it goes on for, the harder it's going to be to get out of it, right? So it's understandable if your child becomes, you know, more clingy or wants, again, like something they wanted from childhood, or when, you know, they are little, even like when they were a baby, like hold me like a baby, like talk to me like I'm a baby, show me pictures of me when I was a baby. It might be trying to kind of bring that back. And, you know, how much is too much? If it's getting in their way, like socially, if it's getting in their way, being able to interact with their peers their own age, if it's getting in their way academically, if they're upset about it, if it's getting in your way as a family, like this can't go on, like we can't sustain this, that's when it's too much. And what do you do about it? It's not an easy fix, right? It's not going to be something I can tell you in 30 seconds, but you want to see it as fear. And what they're trying to do is feel safe and have like a secure base that they can tap back into. And so you want to give them the opportunity to have that, but in an age-appropriate way, right? So I'm always here to talk to you. Like you can come and be with me, but this is how that will look, right? Like it's not okay for you to, I don't know, sleep in bed with me, but I can come and like sit on your bed and like spend more time with you there than I usually do. Right? Like maybe we read together in bed, or you talk to me about your day, and then I'm going to go back to my room. Right? And when they're trying to do those things like in that regressive manner, to say like, I know this is hard. Like I know you're feeling anxious right now, or you're feeling unsure or sad, and this is how I can help you. And I know you can do the things you used to do. I have confidence in you. There's nothing scary about this. Like, you can do these things. And it depends on what the regression is, right? Like if they want to carry around their teddy bear around the apartment and it's just you and your family, I might say, okay, like that's fine. If they're then like can't go anywhere without that teddy bear and they're 14, that's when it might be a problem, because others will, like their peers will think that's weird. It might mess up friendships. And the sooner you can kind of get them back, the better, because otherwise they're going to make the connection that they need this thing, and it's going to be harder to break it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can do one more question and then before we wrap up, if there is another question. Oh, there's 2 more messages. Okay. So I am going to write my email address in the chat. So if you have any follow-up questions or you want to be in touch, if you didn't receive the outline ahead of time, I can email it to you. So I'm going to put that in now, and I can't type and talk at the same time. So I'm not going to. So it's in there now. So please feel free to email me with any questions. I really appreciate you guys finding the time to do this. I know things are busy and hectic, and I hope that this was helpful. And also, feel free to email me ideas for other ones, right? So I want to keep, and our practice wants to keep doing these free webinars. If there's kind of a part 2 you want to see or something in particular that you would like information about, let us know. And that's all I got for you. Yeah. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Alison.
Thank you so much.